My name is Phil Holland, and I want to thank you for joining me to find out more about the ODS Graphics Designer. I hope that when you have installed SAS 9.2 Phase 2 or later software, you'll be able to use what you will see in this presentation to build your own reusable ODS graphics template. I have spent many years working with SAS Graph software, originally producing graphs on pen plotters and more recently generating graphs for paper and electronic reports. This new interactive application has given me the opportunity to generate code to shorten the graph development time by creating ODS graph templates in such a way that I can see what I am drawing as I make updates. This presentation will start with a brief introduction to the ODS Graphics Designer. I will then give two demonstrations of the application using screenshots taken where I will build a template using a gallery of basic templates and then use a blank page to build another template from scratch. The templates can then be saved to disk as designer files or as SAS programs so they can be used again. Once we have saved the SAS programs, I will show you how to adapt one of these templates into a generic template by adding parameters so that it can be used with any SAS dataset having the necessary data characteristics. It should be noted that ODS Graphics Designer is a pre-production release in SAS 9.2 Phase 2. It is a GUI application for building ODS templates for graphs using drag and drop to create the basic structure and providing context-sensitive information windows for you to fill in. The application itself is not a part of the SAS system, but is a Java 1.5 application that acts as a front-end code generator for SAS Graph. As a Java application, it is therefore compatible with Windows, Unix and Linux, although the pre-production version is currently very sensitive to the Java version installed in Unix and Linux platforms. The GUI interface has a large range of objects that can be added to any template, so the application can be used to build templates for almost all types of graphs. I am known for always including some SAS code that I have written in my presentations, and this screenshot shows probably the shortest piece of code I've ever included. The ODS Graphics Designer is started by submitting the %sgdesign macro from the editor window in SAS 9.2. This macro runs the launching code to start the Java application, which is the ODS Graphic Designer. Having started the Java application, the ODS Graphics Designer will appear on the screen, showing the default screen layout of a menu bar with two windows below it. The Elements window on the left includes all the available objects that can be dragged and dropped into the template, and the Graph Gallery on the right has a number of tabbed pages of pre-built templates that can be selected as starting points for your new templates and updated with your own preferences. It is important to realize that as the ODS Graphics Designer is an external program and not running inside the SAS environment, it only has access to permanent SAS datasets in accessible libraries like SAS Help, Maps and SAS User. This should not really be considered as a disadvantage, as a template should be designed to be usable with a wide range of input data rather than limited to a specific SAS dataset. Let me start the first demonstration by selecting a template from the Graph Gallery. I could have selected from any one of the 6 tabs, noting that the Custom tab is where my own previously saved templates would appear. However, in this demonstration I have selected the Vertical Bar Chart template from the Basic Templates tab in the Graph Gallery. When the Vertical Bar Chart template has been selected, I am immediately asked for details of the dataset and variables to be used in the graph. I will be plotting the frequency of the age variable in the sashelp.class dataset. You can now see the default version of the vertical bar chart with the sashelp.class dataset. Right-clicking the graph shows a drop-down menu with a number of options. I'm going to click the Graph Properties option to change the style of the graph. The Graph Properties window can be used to change the style, background and image size. The drop-down selection list shown is choosing the style, and I've selected the SAS Web style here, but this is only for the current demonstration. When the template is next used, it will use the style specified for each ODS destination opened. When I first started the ODS Graphic Designer application, the screen showed just two windows, but additional windows like the graph and code windows can be opened at any time using the View menu option. Here you can see the graph window. And here you can see the code window, where you can read the ODS graph template code generated from our selections. The design height and width are currently being controlled by the manual resizing of the graph window, but could have been fixed when I earlier opened the Graph Properties window. One of the other tabs in the Assign Data window allows the graph to be split into a panelled layout. I now want to split the graphs by the sex variable as has been specified here. The resulting panelled graph has identical X and Y axes in each of the M and F panels, even though there is no data for age equals 16 in the F panel on the right. Here is the template code that can be used to recreate this panel graph with sashelp.class. In particular, the panels are specified in the Layout Data Lattice section with columns equals 2, and inside that the individual graphs are specified in the Layout Prototype section. I started from an existing template in the first demonstration. This next demonstration will start from a blank graph, which can be specified using the File menu item and selecting the New option and then the Blank Graph option from the drop-down menus. This will allow much more control over the content and layout of the final template. Following the menu options described creates a blank graph. Surprise, surprise! I'm going to add some graphical elements to this graph template by dragging them from the Elements window to the graph area. In this case, I'm going to drag and drop another vertical bar chart object. As in the first demonstration, I'm immediately asked for details of the dataset and variables to be used in the graph. Again, I'm going to select a frequency bar chart of the age variable. Next, I want to add a new row for another graph underneath the vertical bar chart. This is done by using the Insert menu item and selecting the Row menu option. This resizes the existing graph and adds a new area on this graph ready for another graphical object to be dragged and dropped there. I have selected a scatter plot for the new row. As before, I am immediately asked for details of the dataset and variables to use with this graph. It is not sensible to select a different dataset, as a template can only be used with a single dataset at a time. So I'm using the sashelp class dataset and the age variable I used before, and adding the height variable for the y-axis. To add the finishing touches to the template, I will add an overall title and footnote using the Insert menu item again. This finalizes the finished template, which is now ready to use. Along with the template code that has been generated for me, the title and footnote are specified in the entry title and entry footnote statements respectively. Note also the use of the Layout Lattice section to specify rows equals 2 and the two lattice overlay sections which hold the bar chart and scatterplot statements. If you click the graph window, then the File menu item includes a Save As option in the drop-down menu, which will save the template in a designer file for reuse. It also includes a Save to Gallery menu option to save the template to the graph gallery, where it will be stored in the Custom tab. However, if you click the Code window, then the File menu item also includes a Save As option in the drop-down menu, but this time it will save the template as a SAS program for reuse. It is this SAS program that I will be adapting for use as a graph template with more general applicability. Those of you with sharp eyes will have noticed that I have edited the generated graph template. I have a personal preference for typing SAS words in uppercase and the user-specified text in mixed or lowercase, as I feel it improves the readability of SAS code. The ODS Graphics Designer does not generate code this way, so I have edited the generated code to conform to my standards, and this is what you can read on this slide. I've also coloured the text I will be changing in the next few slides in red, so you can see how close the generated code is to the final general use template. The first change is rather forced on me, as all the generated templates are called SG Design. So to allow the creation of a collection of templates, I will change it to something else. I'm going to rename it to Multiple Graph 1, which describes the template a little better, but allows me to create some more similar templates with different features later. The dynamic statement is used to specify the template parameters in the same way that a function can have arguments. The generated dynamic statement has two parameters for the same variable, which is unnecessary, and there are dataset related names too. I have used more generally useful parameter names for the X and Y variables. I've also added title and footnote parameters, which I will use later to provide user-defined title and footnote, making them optional instead of hard-coded. To make use of these new title and footnote parameters, I've replaced the hard-coded quoted text in the entry title and entry footnote statements with the parameters which do not need any quotes. In the same way, the new category and response parameters can be used in the bar chart and scatterplot statements to replace the generated age, age2 and height parameters. Finally, putting all the changes together in blue into the final template, you can see the updated template is now fairly easy to read and understand. Experimental ODS graph templates were introduced in SAS 9.1.3. Although the code of the templates themselves are not compatible with SAS 9.2, the only way you could use them in SAS 9.1.3 is still available in SAS 9.2. In a data step, the file print statement has an ODS option, which can be used to specify the template and its dynamic parameters. Then the put_ODS_ statement will output dataset records through the ODS graph template to render the graph. Other than the required ODS graphics on and off statements before and after the data step, no other graph setup statements are needed to produce the following graph. This graph will be familiar to you from the second demonstration, with the addition of the user-defined title and footnote. Producing a graph just like the one seen while we were developing a template is not a great achievement, so let's try to be more adventurous. The template needs a categorical variable and a response variable, so let's look at sashelp.cars dataset instead, by using make as the category variable and wait as the response variable, we can use a very similar program to create a very different graph. Remember that I developed this template using sashelp.class, but this graph uses the data in sashelp.cars, and we did not change more than 5 values in the program. And they are the input dataset, the categorical variable, the response variable, the title, and finally the footnote. In SAS 9.2, a new way of rendering ODS graph templates was introduced with the SG, or Statistical Graphics, procedures. Proc SG render effectively replaces the datastep method and also allows the use of by statements to generate graphs from subsets of the dataset. The initial proc sort is only included as the sashelp.cars dataset is not sorted by type by default. You can see the template and its dynamic parameters are still specified, but the code is much more compact. However, the resulting graph is just as good. You should also note that the fonts used in the graph match those in the byline above the graph, as the characteristics of the ODS style used are incorporated into both the report and the graph. In summary, the ODS Graphics Designer is a Java application, and so it will run on Windows, Unix and Linux, but in its pre-production version is sensitive to the Java version installed on Unix and Linux platforms, so is currently easier to use on Windows. It is strongly rumoured that the production version will be included with SAS 9.3, which is due out sometime in 2011. Generated templates are all called SG Design, so will need to be edited before including in production applications, but the template code generated is very robust. I would strongly recommend the use of ODS Graphic Designer to learn and experiment with ODS graphics templates. By using ODS Graphics Designer, you will be able to see immediately how the features of ODS graph templates fit together. No coding experience is required to generate the initial template, but some coding experience may be required to convert the generated template into a more general parameter-based version. I'm confident that both the ODS Graphics Designer and the ODS graph templates will continue to evolve over time, so new features will soon appear. This presentation and the associated paper can be downloaded from my website shortly after the 2010 SAS Global Forum has finished. There will be a new book published soon by SAS Press, written by Kevin Smith and myself, about Proc Template, which will describe how to create ODS styles and templates for textual and graphical reports from scratch. Please look out for its publication in 2011. Thank you for your attention.